Hello, everybody. This is Ask the Sensei for June. We are here. I'm Tish Hicks, the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo in Burbank, California. And we are joined by our wonderful techno sensei, Dan Lenard, studio master. And our special guest sensei today is Carin Gilfry of Actors of New York, who ironically is here in studio with me. but in some ways, it's a testament to it's a testament to how the voiceover world works now and how the voiceover community builds too. Because well, Karin's here on vacation, we're here working together, or you could be doing a job or anything like that. So we are all one. We are one. So great to have you here. Dan, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do? And then, Karin, I'd like you to introduce yourself, sure. And then we'll get to, and I'm so excited about Voiceover Actors of New York City. And,
cool.
And we'll get on your questions.
Yeah, I'm Dan Lenard. I am a voice actor, voice talent here in Sherman Oaks, California. I've been doing this since the Ford administration. One of the things, I used to be a social studies teacher, so I tend to tell time by presidential administrations. But I'm one of the guys that knows more about home voiceover studios than anybody else on God's green earth, because there are probably only a handful of people who truly understand it. Recording studio engineers are recording studio engineers. They're used to recording music and doing all sorts of production and stuff, and they have very little idea of the completely unique environment that a home voiceover studio is. Whether it's a booth, whether it's your closet, whether it's one of those things. And what I do is I'll help you analyze what is the best way to do it in the home you live in, whether it's an apartment, a motorhome, or your car, which, by the way, isn't a bad place.
So this is fantastic. So in terms of asking your tech questions today, Dan's here, and if you can also tell us in your question what level of experience you're working with.
Yeah. And be specific with your question. Just don't say, what kind of mic should I get? Or that sort of thing.
The more specific you can be, the more specific we can be in our answers. So, and because we're working in this webinar platform where ironically we can't hear your voice on the voiceover webinar, see, we'll guide you if we need more information. But there's that. Well, welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tell us about you.
So I am actually a Californian, even though I live in New York now. I started as an opera singer for many years. I went to USC and then I went to Juilliard for my master's. And then I got into voiceover during the Obama administration.
Yeah, she's a newbie.
Well, even though it was about 10 years ago or so. But I started in audiobooks, and then I realized that to do audiobooks you really have to have a lot of tech skills, and it's a great way to learn to record yourself from home. I think in a kind of lower pressure situation than broadcast national TV commercials. So after I learned that skill set, I moved on to other stuff, and I do mostly commercials and e-learning and audiobooks and video games and things like that. And I run a Facebook group called Voice Actors of NYC, and we have 800 members now.
Holy buckets.
And we do a bunch of free and donation-based events in New York, and we sponsor classes sometimes for people to come and teach over there, and it's really great. So
cool.
That's
excellent.
Yeah.
And you're a resource for people not just in New York, but especially in New York.
Yes,
right?
especially in New York. Most of our members, I'd say probably 90% of the people who are in the group are in New York. But if you are like a real go-getter and you're thinking of moving to New York, or you just want to know what the New York book is about, you can join our group if you like.
Yay. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, let's get on to the questions. Let's see. I think Tanya is who asked this question, and when you're listening back, dear, I'm so sorry that I didn't actually have your email up, but you asked a fantastic question. I think she's a voice actor of New York City.
Wonderful.
So she asked, as a new voiceover artist who constantly submits and gets good ratings, what's the best way to keep putting yourself out there when it seems so hard to start your voiceover career? And I think the last part of the sentence was something like, what's the secret to getting things going, whether with an agent or Voice 123 or what other ways? So, it seems to me that this is something that you've had great success with.
Yeah.
And so why don't you take it? Well, actually, before I'm gonna speak generally, and then I'd love to hear you speak more specifically. So first of all, I think all of us as artists need to do a little semantic shift on this word submit. That it's a word that is the lingo, but if you think about what it does to us psychologically, it's a very kind of dangerous word. I'm submitting my something for you who have all the power, and I submit. So you can just even do some little semantic change of like, I'm presenting, I'm delivering. As if you deliver the job, you submit the audition. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you can just shift that in your mind, you're already ahead of the game, and it's not as hard. Yeah. That's my opinion. Getting started in anything is kind of hard, and keeping at it is really, really the way to do it. And then the third thing I'll say, and then Carin, you can get, and Dan, you can get more specific. The third thing I say is that you don't do this alone. The way that this business has become is the way that this business is structured now. It's become really easy to become isolated and solitary, and that makes things hard. So when you said seems so hard, so those are three things that just on a general level, all of us at wherever we are in our career, because it's in some ways it's easier, but in some ways, darling, 20 years in, it requires equally as much as when you're beginning. So that doesn't change, first of all. But these are three things that can make it seem easier. So that's my 2 cents.
I think that there's no secret. There really isn't a secret. It's all about the work that you put in, just like starting any business, because we are artists, but as voice actors, I think you have to think of yourself more as a business than as an actor sometimes. And that goes for like your home studio as well. The amount of money that you put in is what you're going to get out of it. If you have $100, then you have $100 sound in your home studio. It's not to say that you need to spend $5,000 right away, but and the other thing is, I think the number of auditions you do, especially when you are starting out, directly relates to your booking ratio. So don't be afraid to audition for a lot of things that you're right for. Of course, don't, if it's, if you sound like a 60-year-old woman and the audition is asking for authentic child, I wouldn't audition for that necessarily. But if you do 5 auditions a week, you're going to be sitting at home twiddling your thumbs, waiting for the phone to ring about those 5 auditions. If you do 5 auditions a day for a week, you're going to forget some of them, and you won't be so invested in each one. If you do 10 auditions a day, you'll have 50 auditions by the end of a 5-day week, and it's just not as, you kind of can more easily let it go. And in the process, every audition you do is an opportunity to practice.
Right.
I think.
I was just thinking about a ballet dancer going to the bar.
Exactly.
Where do you go? You go to your class every day. Yeah.
The other thing about voiceover is that everyone, when they start out, really they're not good. Just like anything, when you start and you learn a new skill, in the beginning, you're really not very good. And you might think, like, I have to all the time. But you have to learn every skill, like Julie Andrews would say, from the very And if I was going to become a brain surgeon, I probably could, but I would have to start by learning basic biology. I couldn't just start by cutting open somebody's head. Right. So that's my advice. The other thing about being successful in online platforms is to have a fully filled out profile as much as you possibly can, because those jobs are often matched to you by an algorithm, and the algorithm hits on all of the things that you have in your profile. So if you have a commercial demo, an e-learning demo, and a narration demo, you will be sent auditions for those 3 categories, but maybe not necessarily for, I don't know, like business, whatever a business demo would be, So having a fully filled out profile will match you with more auditions, and that will help you in the long run.
Right. If you think a machine is going, oh, what do I see? What do I see? Not, oh, I know her. She's great. She could totally do that. Right. Yeah. Good. Excellent. I'll tell a quick story. When I was starting, when I moved here from Chicago, 20 plus years ago, I arrived going, that is what I'm going to do. And I trained and I did great training for at least a year with some of the best people in town. And I got to a place where I was like, okay, I'm going to make my demo. And Cindy Akers at Voice Tracks West, which was in LA then, the coaching session and said, you are 98% ready and I'm not going to make your demo. And I was like, what? I didn't say it like that. I didn't say that out loud, but I was like, oh. She said, you have to be 110% ready. You have to be 130% ready. So I went back to the drawing board for 6 more months, and I made up that 12%, and that's how you need to be thinking about it. So, and any thoughts on this first question, and we'll move on?
Oh, well, I think there's a lot of people out there that think this is an easy road to riches, and that it is not. This is a job like any other job that you've got to be trained for. You've got to be prepared for it. You have to have the talent for it. Generally, if somebody who is trustworthy and knows their stuff listens to you and says, you need an awful lot of coaching to get where you need to be, I would heed that advice. And then again, there are some people who just have God's gift of being able to open their mouth and it just sounds right. And it has very little to do with the equipment you have. My co-host on Voiceover Body Shop, George Whittam, used to be the engineer for Don LaFontaine. And everybody was asking George, what are you putting in this studio to make him sound so good? And he simply said, well, Don LaFontaine. It's as simple as that. Don't overthink this process. Do your homework. Don't try to confuse yourself with a lot of conflicting facts. Listen to experts like Tish and Carin who've been there and know what it takes to get to move ahead. It's a process, and you have to be patient. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. This is a building process, and if you're expecting to be able to pay your mortgage next month, you better have some other forms of income, or as I like to tell people, buy lots of ramen noodles.
Right. It's just like starting any business. You're gonna have a couple of years before you start seeing profit and return. So
absolutely.
So that is fantastic. I also think that there is in that mindset of you're starting your own business, you're putting your shingle out, not relying on agents. Yes, agents are part of your team. They are a powerful part of your team and create lots of opportunity that can move you forward powerfully. And the pay-to-plays give you access to opportunities, but don't underestimate your power to just go out and create contact with people that you know and build relationship and start building your own client list as if you were starting a dog walking service or a house cleaning service or financial consulting service. So it's in your hands. This goes back to the submit. Okay, great. So That will be on the recording. But it was a great question that opened up a lot of interesting mindset stuff, and a lot of the way that we work at the dojo here. The internal training is equally, if not more important than the external training. Yes, you're building your skills, but it's these little things inside that actually allow you to align with the power of your voice and get it out into the world. So it's not hard. We want it's always is it going to be challenging? Yes. Can we make it seem not hard? Yes.
But is it also really awesome once you're like in there? And
is it awesome?
It's great.
Yes.
It's a great job.
Yeah. So let's see. Sue just said she's here. Sue Birch. Hi. Sue Birch asks, I heard you talking about the truck going by as a VO nightmare. What suggestions do you have for folks living in studio apartments and wanting to record at home? So let's take that tech question.
Okay. Well, it's pretty simple, which I could tell a story, but the punchline is you live where you choose to live. If you're trying to do something in a specific location and there are mitigating circumstances that make it difficult, you've got a couple of choices. One, you could try and build the right physical space in which to record. You should never, ever, ever, despite what any engineer will tell you, try to deal with this using technology. Everything you need to do with your home voiceover studio has to be physical. Do everything you can physically to make sure that the spot you are in is A, sound tight, and 2, acoustically, you're not getting any vocal reflection. Now, if you don't know what that means or don't understand that, that's when you need to hire a professional who knows exactly what it's supposed to sound like and ask the right questions, but do not crowdsource your home voiceover studio. Sometimes when if you're looking for suggestions on how to fix something like this, like, the garbage truck is going by. I mean, it goes by here. Most people will take the question of what time is it and try to tell you how to build a watch. And that's a really, really bad thing to do, especially if you're already intimidated by the technology. But what I can say about trucks and noise and stuff like that, auditions, somebody might say, I need this right away. Well, that almost never happens. Or it'll say rush or something like that. But that rush is an agent or a roster is going to send you something within a specific period of time. And what I like to say is if your neighbor's cutting the grass and it's too noisy to record, you got two choices. You could spend $6,000 on a whisper room or a vocal booth or a Studio Bricks or building your own booth, or you could wait until your neighbor stops cutting his grass. It's don't overthink this stuff. Think logically and sensibly about it, and don't panic about anything.
Dan Lenard giving sound advice.
No, that's somebody else.
And I think there's a really nice blend of places, people on their journey here. So for everybody, what was I saying? Oh, it's an evolution, right? So the people who are on this call that have representation or booking, at one point had to start somewhere. So again, you can, as you're building your business, you can evolve your recording situation is a way to approach it.
I have a friend in New York City who just found that the subway was running under her apartment all the time, and so she has an office now that she goes over.
So that'll do it. That's unmitigated.
Exactly.
That's something you can't mitigate.
Instead of spending on building a booth or something, it was actually more cost effective for her to just rent space.
Oh, right,
with
right.
a whisper room that she already had, but it wasn't cutting out all the sound. So that's an option too.
All those solutions. Yes. Okay. So that's good. So Royal's in Atlanta. How do you stay on top of trends in the business?
That's a good one.
Yeah. Because it's something we all have to do because it's changing all the time, both the sound and how the whole thing works. So
you have to watch and listen to things that are on television and on the radio now, if that's the medium that you're working in. It's just really, really important. I have so many friends who are voice actors who say, I have an Apple TV and I haven't watched a commercial in 5 years. I'm like, well, how do you know what is, in style and on trend right now?
Right.
You really need to know what people are looking for. And voiceover now is really different than it was 10 years ago, even.
5 years ago.
5 years ago. It's absolutely true. Everything is going toward this, like, very natural, breathy sound. And, even you look at car commercials now since this past Super Bowl, when that Alfa Romeo commercial aired with, who's doing it?
Who got that beautiful spot?
Leslie Loeb does that. Anyway, there are so many luxury car commercials now that are voiced by women, more than I've ever seen before. And that's like a whole different thing, right. I think it's not the man luxury car commercial, it's the women luxury car commercial.
That's right. Yeah. But those are great trends. It's not only sound but gender. I think I might have mentioned this on these calls before, but one of the things that I do on a yearly basis as a ritual is to watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and just have a yellow legal pad and write down every ad before, during, and after, because if you think about it, it is the nexus of capitalism, of capitalism, of what we're selling now. And so it's a really good way to get a sense of where the trends are, especially like on the retail. We at the dojo, we talk about the cellometer, right? A gradient of intimacy and energy, and how you can, and I'd say the good trend is like 5 and under if the scale is 1 to 10. So you get a sense of, what used to be a JCPenney's, it's the JCPenney's one day only sale, used to be, is now like, hey, it's the JCPenney one day only sale.
Yeah.
You should come. I go all the time. Well, if I can find one, I go. But please come.
Can we talk about diarrhea?
I have everything to get you here, but we don't want to sound like it.
But it's also a difference in how the advertising world works, how we listen to each other, right? In the 40s, we used to, you'd open up a Life magazine and saying 9 out of 10 doctors recommend these cigarettes, right? That, like, this voice of authority telling you what's best for you. Now, what do? We go to Yelp. We say, hey, Facebook Hive Mind, where should I go? What should I do? We ask each other. And so this quality in the trends in commercials, I think, has to do with also how our communication and our intake of commerce is happening as well. So yeah, I think listening. Just like if you were an IT person, you'd have to be up on the trends of what is the next thing and how do I use it. Creating a chunk of your day, creating a chunk of your day that is devoted to research. Go on iSpot. See the last, the last 3 months of ads.
I would say also, if you have voice actor friends who you admire and they seem to be booking a lot, go to their website and listen to their demos and see what they're recording and what's working for them. I think that's a good resource as well.
Yeah, excellent. Hopefully that is a good start. Great question. Let's see. So Sue asked 2 questions. Royal asked 2 questions. Royal's asked a lot of questions, which is great, and they're all really good questions. But let's pop around and see. So, anonymous attendee asked, "Do you believe it's worth the money for a union actor to use the pay-for-play sites?"
That's a great question. Should I take it?
Ladies first.
I think it depends. You won't find union jobs on the pay-to-play sites as a rule. Like every once in a while on Voice 123, there'll be like a SAG-AFTRA thing. But I will say that a lot of work is not covered by union contracts. E-learning, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or it is covered by a union contract, but usually in an e-learning job, there is almost always enough money there for you to convert it from non-union to union. So if you're looking for e-learning work, there's a lot of it on Voice123. There's
Mm-hmm.
not as much on like VO Planet. That's a lot of commercial stuff I've found. And anyway, their site is under construction, ready for relaunch coming soon. So I would say if that's something you do, then sure, you know.
So figuring out.
Yeah, and you'll probably make back your money with one e-learning job. So
Right.
So I mean,
I think for me, you know, and granted, you know, I'm very clear that, you know, I came up in another paradigm. I came up where there wasn't pay-to-play sites. We learned on the job, as we all do. I'm not being snooty or anything, but I don't, you know, I don't have a lot of experience doing them, or doing the non-union or the union work, or the pay-to-play sites. But how I look at it, just from a business perspective, the question is not so is a little bit money. Mm-hmm. But from my perspective, like, what is it, like $400 for a year, mm-hmm. even if you don't get a deal somewhere, mm-hmm. it's $400. So that's like a session fee. Mm-hmm. Book something. And if you're booking, you know, and if you're booking stuff that is under $400, don't do that very often. You know, do that to start, but don't make a plan of doing jobs that are underselling you.
Yeah.
So if you have a mindset of like, oh, well, I'll book one job and that will pay for the money part. That's one section. And then the question becomes the time part, because the pay-to-plays require, I liken it to the difference between being a day trader and having a broker, mm-hmm. in terms of investment, you know, in front of an investment situation.
Yeah.
Because you can make a fine living doing day trading, and you can do awesome, and you can be really knowledgeable, but if your butt is not in that seat making those transactions every day, your business is not working. As opposed to having a broker, those things are happening while you're doing other things, and then you confer, right? So I think it's not only time, or it's not only money, but time, and then what your specific goals are, yeah. right? So yeah. If you're not interested in these non-jurisdictional things or things that can be converted to union, mm-hmm. then don't do it. But if you have an inkling, and you know, and I think for those of us who've been doing this for a long time, it never really occurred. If it's never really occurred to you, you could think of it like, oh, am I leaving money on the table? Mm-hmm. What could I be doing with the skill sets that I have, and how can I use this as a vehicle? Once again, always understand that you're driving the car. I'm driving the car. Is this a vehicle that will get me to where I want to go? Yeah. And right, so
before I forget, I just want to say that Bidalgo.com also has a lot of e-learning if you're union. Mm-hmm. So pay attention to Bidalgo, because they're a very good company.
And it's a company out of Germany that's that's a pay to play out of Germany.
Yeah, BODALGO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. Any other thoughts, Dan?
Well, not being a member of the union, to the shock of many, many people out there, still working on it, maybe. If you're just starting out, the pay-to-plays are a good place to be. A couple of very specific ones. Carin mentioned Bidalgo, which is run by our good friend Armin Heimstetter. Very nice guy, very interesting guy, and a one-man band who really takes care of his website. And is creating a lot of great technology for voiceover, and very active in our community. And then there are some places whose interest in you is not even relevant. They're there to make a profit. They're not there to improve their service. Their job is to use you as a commodity, and you do not want to go to those places. And I won't mention any names. Well, I could mention names, but I'll do that for the time being. But if you're starting out and you're at one of these sites, you're going to get a lot of good material in which to practice from. You're going to learn from. You're going to find out where your strengths are, because you're going to be exposed to all sorts of different material, and then you will find your niche that way. That said, I just left Voice123 after 15 years of being on there. And because I'm experienced, because I've been doing this a long time, because I have an established clientele, because I'm on different rosters where I'm getting stuff from several different regional agents, I'm getting things from rosters here in LA. I'm getting the same type of stuff, if not better stuff, than I was before. But it took me many, many years, and moving out here to California, to make that difference. So my experience isn't necessarily what's going to fit in yours. But if you're starting out, you're trying to build a business, as Willie the actor Sutton said as he was walking out of Attica prison, someone said, why did you rob banks? He goes, because that's where the money is. That's the thing about that. You go where the jobs are, and if there's stuff out there, of varying different budgets, you got to go where that stuff is until you can gain the experience to really take even more control over your career.
Right, and then I think as union actors to kind of assess where your time and energy is best used, because if you're there's a metaphor coming. If you have distribution for your lemonade through supermarkets, setting up a lemonade stand isn't necessarily going or can or cannot, right? I think that's a little extreme in the metaphor, but you just need to figure out how can it be, or is there money to be made in this smaller, more hands-on place? Is there stuff that fits in with how your life works as a union actor?
Right. It's just one tool in your marketing kit.
Yes,
that's right.
Got so many other things going on. So.
Good. Let's see. Parker asked, as working pros, what kind of ongoing training or workouts do you do, and how often? It's interesting because I as the master sensei of the VO Dojo, one of the values of the dojo is that I'm also a continuing. I continue with my voiceover career, and it's part of the values of the dojo that I want to walk the talk, that I'm doing what you guys are doing as well. So, dojo takes a lot of time and focus, but I actually created the VO Dojo Pro Fight Club, which is our working pro, our twice a month working pro workout that brings together top-notch talent and the decision makers who hire us. Because I was like, wait a minute, I'm putting this all together for everyone else, but what do I need as someone who's a working pro? Like, what's the next set of questions? What's the next challenge that comes up? And I came up with this idea of what we know we're good, we know we've got it, and then what happens when you send off an audition, and what happens after that, moment, and it's just gone, and you might get an avail or you might not, or you just have no idea. So the Fight Club is designed to turn that audition process transparent. So we go through the whole process, like here's the feedback on the two things that were just like your audition, and then here's where you would stand. Here's who the decision maker says, who would I call back or put in my A pile from that. And then we all go back and do another session, another round one-on-one, and work like we would in a session, which is great, because if you haven't gotten to the place where you've gotten to the session or the callback, then you don't know what that experience is working at that level with people. And we have people who come to Fight Club who are the people we know from doing sessions. Like, they're the people who we work with, who make the decisions of why we're there. So that's kind of what I do. And workouts on going to, but then when I'm interested in something, if I'm working on promos, I invest in working. I coach with Harry Dunn. I just did a great, oh my God, I can't begin to tell you how great this class is. Great singing in character class with Ned Lott, who is like the Disney guy, and he's brilliant. So I'm always doing R&D and out there. But it's also in terms of the dojo, one of the rules of the dojo is cultivate beginner's mind. And I think this is really important too, because no matter where you are, if this is like the first day that you said, oh, I'm a voiceover person, or hi, I'm a voiceover person, that, you know, like I said, 20 years in, you're still, you still want to have that, like, ooh, what is this? I love it. I'm going to try this. Ooh, I'm going to play with this. Yeah. So humiliation. No, not humiliation. Humility, determination, and curiosity are all things that you keep on doing. And that's the beauty of this work for me. Yeah. So
that's great.
How about for you guys?
I think that as a working pro, you cannot be afraid to still take classes because it's so important. You can't get to a place where you go, all right, that's it. I'm here. I said in a world, in a commercial, and now that's it. I'm never going to, you know, you have to just keep working. And what I did was I started a Facebook group so that we could all get together and work out. And there are so many community groups on social media that you can join. There are groups on LinkedIn. There are groups on Facebook. Even if you're in a place that doesn't have a lot of other voice actors around you, there are online groups that you can join that do online workouts. If you're in a place that has a lot of voice actors, get together with your local voice actors and do classes. If you're in New York City, join our group. We do a lot of classes. We do something about once a month usually. So it's good.
Yeah. How about you, Dan?
Yeah, you know, having been someone who started a local group back in Buffalo, we called it Herd Around Buffalo. It was a bunch of fairly well-known people in the community, and we would meet once a month, and we would have a topic to talk about, and we would go over scripts, and we would work with each other. I think there's a lot of value in having a local meetup group. Having a good coach is vital. In seeking a coach, find a coach who is a coach, someone who is a good teacher, someone who can take the knowledge they have about how to do something for you and put it in your brain, but also how it works in your brain. Don't find a coach who's just a director who's going to get you to talk the way they want you to talk. You want to find somebody who's going to know your strength, your voice, and what's going to work for you, not what made them famous or made them a lot of money as a voice actor. A good coach is somebody who really understands your style, who understands what's going to make you do what you do best based on your vocal styles, and will work on you from that point of view. And also, look for a coach that has a list of successful clients, and find a class. And always, if you're just starting out, it's always really important to take acting classes, take some improv classes, those sorts of things, and keep doing it, if only to keep engaged with the community and engaged with everybody else that's out there, but also to keep your mind engaged in what's new and how to progress.
Right, and the question was as working pros, but I think it really is just keeping that beginner's mind and always just being like, yeah, about all of it. And at the dojo we also have a working pro, a virtual weekly workout called the Nth Degree that includes a business mastermind, several modalities of small group workouts, and includes a fight club. So awesome. It's a great place to just kind of, like if you want to come and just hone and tone, or if you're thinking about doing something else, or you're feeling a little off kilter and just need to get out of your closet, it's a great hello people. So small group of focused working pros that become your group, and then that's the whole premise of the entire dojo is we only work with about 40 people per year in our Mystery to Mastery program. So it's this focused, tight group of people that are all working at the same intensity and same, and we come up together. So let's see. Royal is asking awesome questions, and I also want to make sure that we are getting other folks' questions. So let's see. Royal, there's two wait, no, that's World 2. Hold on one second. He's got great questions, man. Let's take another anonymous, and then we'll pop back to all these great world questions. And everybody else, please
Ask questions.
That's what we're here for. So another anonymous says, the business has shifted so much over the years. Now that so much occurs from home, what things are second nature to you now that you wish you knew when you first started self-recording or self-editing? That's kind of a cool question.
That's a great question, actually.
Punch and roll for me. Punch editing is second nature now that I could not live without it. That's the only way that I can record myself.
Can you articulate what that means?
So what that means for me, and this is not true of everyone, I feel like I do it a slightly different way from other people. I actually don't even record my breaths, because I stop my recording with the space bar and then I start it by clicking record again. So I take a big breath before. If it's a 15-second commercial, you probably don't need a breath anyway. If it's an audiobook and there's
an opera singer,
if it's an audiobook and there's dialogue in there, or if it's first person narrator, of course you can keep breaths in because it's part of the delivery of the book. But things that are like real, like cut and dry corporate e-learning where they really don't want breath sounds in there, I take a deep breath, like a singer breath. I hit record. I say, welcome to the e-training course for blah, 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 da, 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 da. And then when I have to breathe again, I stop, take a breath, hit record again. Da, 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 da. So then I don't have to go back through and find each breath and cut it out. Also, when I make a mistake, I go back to the last time I paused. I put the playhead of the recording there. I cut out the end piece, and then I just jump right in right at that moment, so that when I'm finished, I don't have to go through and find like, okay, the first time I said that was wrong. The second time was also wrong. The third take was the one I want to keep. So let me go in, let me cut out the first and second takes. Let me slide over the third take. Oh, the third take I was frustrated. So now it sounds louder than the rest of it. So I have to re-record it now. So I just, punch and roll has been a lifesaver for me.
But I think yes. But I think that there's also a level of experience that you have now that allows you to go like, okay, that was it. I'm keeping that one.
Yeah.
That when you're beginning, there might be something really powerful, because there's a paradox in how we develop our skills. You know, if you're in a session, you never ask for playback. You might get playback, but playback is not part of our process when we're in a session. So we have to develop our ears to know immediately that was that. Okay, what did the director say? Okay, great. I'm going to incorporate that. So we have to be calibrating ourselves without hearing back, right? But in order to develop our skills to do that, it's really important that we listen back. So we go, oh, I thought I said, oh, that wasn't at all what I thought. Oh, that makes no sense at all, right? So I think that's an interesting thing to be working toward, and to try and to keep on developing. May or may not be something that you can do effectively as you're beginning. It might be that you have to listen back to everything. What was that? No, not that. What was that? Like that. Yes. That you start to developing, so you can get and getting with your editing is good business. So
it's part of your business.
Yeah.
The faster you can turn around something with a beautifully edited finished product, not like I can do it fast and it's going to be really bad, but the faster you can turn around a professional sounding product, the better you will be.
And one more thing, and then I want to hear you, obviously your take on the tech stuff, Dan. One more thing, I've noticed that as I work with people who may have started out working by themselves, it's really okay. What am I trying to say? Make sure you understand the rhythm of an actual recording session. Because you're either going to be running one with a client yourself, or you're going to be invited to be at one. And if you develop your skills in such a way that you go, that you do it so that you build as you go, that's not how a session goes.
Mm-mm.
And an engineer is going to shoot you through the head, or want to. They won't really. They'll just be like, okay, great, let's do that again. But it's really important you understand the rhythm of an actual session. And I find the more I can, if I'm working on something, the more I can create that for myself,
Mm-hmm.
then it's all the same. So and then you can make shortcuts for what works for you, of like what you know. How about you, Dan? What else would you say?
Well, in thinking about all these things, I talk to a lot of people who are starting out, and their questions are a lot of the questions like we're getting this morning. It's a matter of you don't know what you don't know, and as you go through learning these things, from a technological point of view, it's important to understand process and not be intimidated by it. Find out, well, what format does the client want it in? How does my software work? Do not try to get software that's very, very complicated. Something, if you're on a Mac, Twisted Wave is fabulous. There's a new program out called Ocean Audio, which is free, which is super duper simple. Hit record, go, edit.
Platforms, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Audacity, which is also free, and learn how to use them, practice them, get used to them. Don't say, oh God, somebody wants to hire me for this job. How do I do this? Practice it, learn it before you really start to get yourself involved in trying to do production for people. Doing auditions, not quite as critical, and I think some people are investing tremendous amounts of time and hours of mind-numbing frustration trying to build something that's going to make them sound great. The idea of your home studio is not to make you sound great. It's to make you sound like you as you exist in the environment in which you're recording. And you don't want to be thinking about that. So don't be intimidated by it. Learn how it's done from the people who actually know exactly how it's supposed to be done in your home studio. I won't mention any names except mine. And then the thing is about the equipment. There is no microphone out there. There is no preamp. There is no software. There is nothing out there that will change the way you perform copy. It's as simple as that. It's not, go into all these. What's the best microphone for voiceover? Generally, the one you got. So
although these questions are about when you do have the skills, what are ways that you can make your process more efficient? Anonymous follows up with, how do you learn punch editing?
Right. How do you learn that? You go to a tutorial on how to do it.
Yeah. You learn by doing, I think. You just have to, and like, unless someone is very well versed in your specific recording software, I can't tell you how to punch and roll in Audacity. I know that it exists. It has something to do with pressing Shift R, but I don't really know. You can look up online tutorials and do it that way.
Yeah, Ocean Audio also allows you to do it very simply. It's just setting a time and hitting the space bar, and boom, it does what it's supposed to do.
Adobe Audition, there is a way to do it, but you have to get a special plug-in or something in order.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Punch and roll with Adobe Audition is not. What programs do you find are punch and roll friendly, Dan?
Well, Pro Tools. Right. But if you want to use Pro Tools was designed for people who have spent 20 years in the recording business and understand complex multi-track recording. For what we're trying to do, Pro Tools and any major multi-track software is like buying the control room for a nuclear reactor to control a hamster running in a cage. So I would suggest stay away from the complex. You don't need to learn the complex. All you need to do is learn how to simply record your voice and learn how to edit properly. And Carin was talking about how she uses a punch and roll, which is literally roll and punch. I don't know why they call it punch and roll. But it's always been my philosophy of, if you do punch and roll and you're erasing something that you might need later. And if you're very good at editing, you don't want to erase all that stuff. You can make a mark, or you can use a clicker, or go or boop, or something along those lines, and learn how to edit very quickly, because even with punch and roll, you still have to go back and edit some of the crossover points. So sometimes I believe personally, and that's just the way I work, that you just record everything. Don't stop. go back and record the stuff. If you make a mistake, go back and say it again. Just mark the place where you made the mistake, and then you can in real time go back and fix things so they sound right, as opposed to hoping it'll sound right once you've done the punch and roll. That's my personal thing, and that's something I've learned over the years. So.
I feel like there are so many different ways to record yourself.
Absolutely.
And you have to just find what works well for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know people who absolutely cannot do any voiceover if they're wearing headphones and listening to themselves while they're recording, which for me sounds like I cannot even imagine not listening to myself when I record. There are people who want to record absolutely everything and go back and edit, whereas I like to edit on the fly and have it all be finished when I'm finished, and then just go through and edit the joints to make sure that there's no weird sounds in between them. But and
what program do you work on?
I actually work in Logic, but that's because I compose as well, and I really like the Apple Music library.
And that's like the car. That's the car you know how to drive.
Yeah, it's the car I know how to drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
exactly. So Logic is an Apple program. It's like GarageBand Plus, kind of. Everything's in the same place as GarageBand. If you're using GarageBand,
Carin needs that vehicle for other things that
she does, things as well. Right? And Logic does wonderful punch and roll, so that's what I use. And it's one of it's the car that I know how to drive.
That's a great way to think. And Dan, you said OSIN has good punch and roll capacity, and there's a way to make twisted wave work too, right?
There is, but you have to write a script. If it's stuff, if you're intimidated by writing code and doing all this stuff, avoid it. Find what's going to work best for you, and don't try to modify something to do something in a certain way.
What does Audacity is good punch and roll?
It doesn't. I know that David H. Lawrence has a great system for doing this. He just, it's anytime you make a mistake, you just record on a new track, and then you can edit those things like that. So that works just as well.
And since James Romick is here, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Reaper. He loves Reaper.
Oh, right.
Which is another one. Right, James? Yes.
Good. Cool. Well, we're coming up to the end of our time, and I want to make sure we have time to tell you what else is going on. I think we can take one more question. We do these things once a month. Carin won't be here all the time, but we'll have another fabulous guest. But you can put it on your calendars. We're actually going to skip July because it's 4th of July, and we're just going to have a break off. But we'll be back in August, so that's that. And if you have a question that didn't get answered, we'll look through and see if we can pop some answers through. But you can always get on my calendar for a 15-minute conversation. It's called a Voiceover Once-Over. You go to thevodojo.com and scroll down and look for a Voiceover Once-Over. So I'm always happy to do that. Do you have?
I have
ways
one
that
more.
People
I have one more thing that I wanted to talk about, because Dan mentioned people spending a lot of time on their auditions, and you mentioned going into an audition and you don't really get playback. And I think it's so important when you're doing self-submit auditions to not get too in your head so that you're spending an hour on one audition. When you go into an audition with a casting director, you literally get 2 takes sometimes, and that's it. And then you walk out and you're done, and they either choose you or you don't. You can kind of do the same thing at home, so it doesn't take forever and ever. And that's a good way to streamline your process.
Yeah.
I think.
Although sometimes it takes 10, at first it takes 10 takes to get to that take. And then a couple of weeks later or a month later, it'll take 6 takes to get to that one take. And then it'll take 4 takes. So I think you do need to develop the system, but what you're aiming for is to be able to go boom, boom. And if you're thinking about, if you're in a place where you're like, should I do my demo? That's a question that you should ask yourself. Can you nail any piece of copy that's put in front of you in 1 or 2 takes? That's a great barometer. And that's what we're moving towards. Yeah. Excellent. It's these things are like, oh, we could just keep on talking forever, couldn't we? So how can people stay in touch with you, Dan?
How can they do that? Well, they can go to this place. This always works for me. Dan Leonard, Home Studio Master, homevoiceoverstudio.com. And I have a specimen collection cup on my site. It's $25. I can analyze your audio and make sure that you're doing it right. And if I think it's right, I'll say, that's pretty good. If there's something minor, I can tell you it's something minor. Try this. If I think you totally don't understand what's going on, we can talk about having a full consult. And there's a Dojo discount for you if you mention that you got this info from the Dojo.
Excellent. And then VOBS on Monday nights, right?
And of course, Voiceover Body Shop, Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 Pacific, and 8:30 in Newfoundland.
Just in case.
At VOBS.tv.
Cool. And how do people stay in touch with you, Carin?
You can go to my website, CarinGilfry.com, CarinGilfry.com. You can find me on Facebook if you like. I like to keep in touch with people that way. You can join Voice Actors of NYC if you want. Just tell me that you were a part of this this class session here so that I know that you're not just some random person from Walla Walla, Washington.
Not that there's anything wrong in Walla Walla, Washington.
Dear
It's a
friend,
wonderful community.
they make good wine there. too.
No randos.
But yeah, just mention that, and we've got a lot of great stuff going on there.
Yeah, excellent. And then in terms of what's coming up at the dojo, like I said, anytime sign up for a voiceover once-over, thevodojo.com. I'm going to be in New York in June. So if you're in New York and want to do a private coaching session, I'm going to have a few, not 100 times because I'm on vacation, but I will have some times available. So email me about that. And if you are in the beginning of your journey, we are starting, 2 opportunities. It's the summer of VO is starting for the dojo. If you wanted to go to summer sleepover camp, I'm going to be teaching a full week workshop at the main media workshop, June 17th through 22nd, and we do have a couple spaces open. So if you wanted to go boom, or you've been kind of doing something here or there, you just want to go boom, full force exploration of all the genres all day long. It's going to be a really powerful experience in a really gorgeous place. So if you want to go to sleepover camp, touch base about the main media workshop. And we also do something called the Summer VO workout, Summer VO. We start with a free webinar that's happening on Wednesday, June 27th. And that segues into a very affordable weekly virtual workout. And I call it Virtual Voiceover Summer Camp for Grown-ups. So that's great. And Nth Degree and Fight Club, we've got Fight Clubs coming up in June. And then we have one straggler in July, because when you work with the actual people who do the work, sometimes they can't be there. So look at the website about that, or let us know that you're interested. The criteria for Fight Club is demo, reps, and booking to be able to play. But anybody can audit the virtual Fight Clubs. We do one live in LA and one virtually. So anyone can audit the virtual Fight Clubs. So if you're interested, touch base with us. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It was a great turnout. Love to hear from you. If you have other questions, contact me. I'll always be able to talk with you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Carin, sharing some of your vacation time.
Yeah.
And I look forward to further collaborations is the word. And Dan, always such a joy to have you here and sharing your expertise. So
My pleasure as always.
thank you so much. And we'll have this recording available if you want to listen again. And thanks, everybody. We'll see you in August for this, for the next Ask the Sensei. Take care, everyone.
Toodaloo.